On March 18th, 1990, the most audacious art heist of all time took place at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. Check out Season 1 of Empty Frames for a 12-episode dive into the Gardner heist.
This season, we will be exploring other art crimes and significant moments in the art world before returning to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist.
This is Empty Frames. Welcome to Empty Frames, episode 1 of season 2. I'm Tim, half of your hosting team. I sit here in the Crawlspace studios in Wormtown, Massachusetts. What's up, Lance?
How's it going today?
It's going great. It's been a while. We're back in the saddle here.
I know, it feels good to be talking about fine art again.
It does.
And while we won't be talking specifically about the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist, we will be exploring other heists, other significant moments in the art world, and the first one that we have today is such a good one.
It really is. But let's back it up first. We ended season 1 abruptly, and we're aware of that. And so we got a lot of questions. Why, where is episode 13? I believe we promised that we were going to do 13 episodes. We ended up only doing 12. Kind of a long story, not exactly something that we're going to share right now, maybe at another date. But just because we haven't delivered any podcast episodes since the summer, and we sit here now in near the end of the year of 2018, just because we haven't delivered any episodes doesn't mean there wasn't anything going on, Lance.
Well, as we know, when you do things like this, when you explore cold cases and open cases, sometimes a bit of reality comes into play, and we got a bit of reality when we were talking about the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist, and it just seemed like the safer bet to end at 12, episode 12, and reassess the situation and what the more important and safe thing to do would be.
Exactly.
We were in that assessment phase, and we still wanted to provide Empty Frames as a series, so that's what we're doing now. There is some stuff going on in the background, though.
Yeah, it really is amazing. If you don't do a podcast, you'd probably be shocked to know the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes, especially when you're not even in production with that podcast. So that was kind of a slap in the face to both of us, I'd say, or maybe some cold water. I don't say slap in the face, cold water thrown upon us.
Yeah, dose of reality in the form of cold water.
Yeah,
the metaphorical form of cold water.
Mm-hmm. So today, Lance, for episode 1 of what we're kind of calling a bridge season, this is technically season 2, but we're only doing 6 episodes. Let's hope we don't stop at 5. But we're doing 6, and right now I think what we're doing is kind of veering away a little bit from the Gardner heist. We're taking a broader look at art crime, and with the Gardner heist in mind, always in our minds. And we intend to get a little bit closer back towards the Gardner heist in our next season, season 3, which will be longer than 6 episodes. So this episode, Lance, we are talking about the stolen de Kooning painting.
Right, the Woman Ochre. That is a painting that was done by the abstract expressionist artist Wilhelm de Kooning. And for those of you who don't know, it was stolen way back. The anniversary of that theft is November 27th, and it was returned by 3 very genuine gentlemen.
Yeah, and so it was stolen in 1985, and the painting was made in 1954 and 1955. So it's not a terribly old painting, but it had been stolen from the University of Arizona Museum of Art in Tucson back in 1985.
And it was stolen by a very unassuming couple, and we talk a little bit about them during this interview coming up. Jerry and Rita Auker, who you wouldn't know by these pictures that you see of them out there now. You'd never know that these 2 people were responsible for such a significant art heist.
Allegedly responsible, Lance, and they were both school teachers. And so they passed away in 2012 and 2017, and they lived in Cliff, New Mexico, a very small town in New Mexico. And that is where today's story begins, because the fine gentleman at Manzanita Ridge Furniture and Antiques of Silver City, New Mexico, purchased the estate that was for sale from the altars. And with that estate came this very famous painting.
Which is something that they do. That's their job. They have this antiques and furniture store. And we're talking about David Van Auker, Buck Burns, and Rick Johnson. They go to these estate sales, and they put a flat price on everything inside there. They bid on it. And I believe they bid on this one for $2,000, and they got the entire estate, including this almost priceless Woman Ochre by Kooning.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about the robbery, Lance, is that the painting was cut out of the frame. So the frame actually hung in the museum on the walls, empty, just like the Gardner Museum, for many years.
And it was quite a moment when they matched up and you'll hear it in the interview, when they matched up the cut from what's left in the frame from the painting to the actual painting, and that was pretty much what sealed the deal for them, that this was the original that was stolen.
Yeah, and by all accounts, a very emotional moment for everyone in the room.
I got chills. I think
did
we say
too,
it. I got
yeah.
chills when they were talking about it.
Yeah. So this couple, this man and woman who stole the painting, they were in the museum for about 15 minutes before leaving in a rust-colored car, and it's a pretty wild story if these are the real thieves, and it does seem like they are, but there's no definitive word, I guess, on that at this point.
You have the composite sketch that's pretty accurate. You have the painting in their home, so we can say allegedly, but it's
kind of hard to imagine anyone else stole the painting at this point.
It matches all of the descriptions that they match. But it was it is really, if anyone hasn't seen the picture, just Google their names. You'd never put their faces. I keep coming back to this because you'd never know who's a criminal. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, there is a wonderful picture of Jerry and Rita Alter just smiling and about to drink some wine, and we talk about it a little bit in the interview, so you'll want to check that one out. Okay, so thank you very much. We hope you enjoy this interview with David and Buck. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more Empty Frames. Please follow us on Twitter at empty_frames. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Empty Frames Podcast. Welcome to Empty Frames. We are being joined by Buck Burns and David Von Auker. How are you guys today?
Good. We're good. Yeah, like we said, we're cold, but we're awesome.
So it's a little bit chilly in New Mexico. Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, Silver City, New Mexico.
Yep.
Silver City, New Mexico. And why is it that we are speaking to you folks? This probably is something our listeners are like, what's going on with this? Who are these guys?
Well, one, we're awesome.
Agreed.
Two,
obviously.
Yeah. Two, we found a painting.
Oh. Go on.
Yes, please do continue.
So, David, you want to go ahead?
Well, back in beginning of August of 2017, Buck and I and our other business partner, Rick, purchased an estate in a little town called Cliff, little town in the middle of nowhere, population of probably 200. And when we went out there and started taking a look at stuff and photographing and inventorying what we were purchasing, there was a painting hidden behind a bedroom door. And we kind of liked it for ourselves. We were going to take it home with us. So we included it in the purchase price of the furniture and other things. Brought it into Silver City, took it off the truck, and immediately customers started saying that they thought it was a real Willem de Kooning painting.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to take a step back real quick. What
Sure.
brought you to this estate sale, and what business do you run?
We own a furniture store, and we deal in decorative items. We deal in art and antiques as well. And we received a phone call from the nephew of the owners of the home that had recently passed away. And he called us from Houston, Texas, and asked if we would go out and take a look and purchase the contents of the home.
Okay, and don't be shy. What's the name of your furniture store?
We are Manzanita Ridge Furniture and Antiques.
Very good.
Very good.
And is that something that happens a lot? You guys purchase estate sale type belongings?
Yes, yeah, we do it. We used to do it really regularly. Now we just do it here and there. We actually tried to refer this estate to somebody else who was tied up, so we ended up taking it kind of, begrudgingly.
So
luckily, though.
So he called you, the nephew of the Alters
Yes.
called you. Is that something that normally happens? You get called about these estates, or is that how you find out about them?
Yeah, we either get calls from family members or real estate agents, one of the two. Yep.
Okay. And so when you tried to turn this over, was that during that phone call, or you called some kind of colleague after that call?
I actually called a colleague after the phone call. She really wasn't interested in it, and then when I called Mr. Roseman back, he said he didn't want to have an estate sale or anything like that. He just wanted us to go and just take everything, and he kind of intrigued me because he said the home was full of some really high-end mid-century modern furniture, which turned out to be not quite true. It was mid-century, but it wasn't really high-end. But that's what finally got me to do it. Was I thought it was going to be some really, really good stuff.
Okay, so we got the call that puts you at the estate. You're going through all of the material, and you see this painting.
Yes.
It's not so much. You could say it was hidden. It was behind a door in the bathroom, right? Like on the wall behind the door.
It was actually hung behind the master bedroom door.
Oh, the
Yes.
master
So
bedroom
the-
door. Okay.
Yes, sir. So if the door was open, you would never see the painting.
Okay,
Right.
That's interesting. And you saw it, and your first impression of this was.
I kind of found it accidentally. We normally wouldn't have shut the door, but the way the furniture was positioned, there was a dresser that had a piece of it removed and setting so that the bedroom door was touching it. So I had to close the bedroom door to get that piece out. And so I was down on my knees, and I looked up and I saw the painting, and my instant first impression was it was a print.
Okay.
And and then as I stood up, I could see the kind of waves in the canvas and the cracks in the paint, and that's when I realized that it was a real painting. And I kind of liked it. I didn't love it, but I kind of liked it. And Buck was in the room across the hall inventorying that stuff, and so I called him in and I said, "Hey, come take a look at this and tell me if you like it." And he said, "Yeah, I do." And so I said, "Okay, great, we'll take it home." And that was it. We didn't think anything more about it for the next day.
Did you pay for it there, or how does that work?
We inventoried everything. We came home, totaled the estate out. I called Mr. Roseman with my offer, and he said great. And we dropped a check in the mail and went back out to pick up the stuff.
Okay, so you bring it back to your furniture store, and you put it on display for the public to see, to sell it?
I brought it in out of the truck. It was actually packed on top of some African spears and that kind of stuff. The room that I was actually inventorying was full of African art and antiquities and what have yous. And so I brought the painting in and leaned it up against one of the beams in the store just to bring it in.
Yeah, just to get it out of the way.
First customer through the door was a gentleman who had, I guess, saw the Woman series by Kooning in New York, I believe. So when he walked in, he recognized the style and said, he knelt down in front of the painting, and I was at his shoulder, and he went to scratch the painting, and he scratched it a little bit, and he said, "Is this real?" And I grabbed him by his wrist, and I said, "If it is, I'd prefer you not touch it." In our line of business, we get a lot of prints and a lot of what I call touch prints. So that's actually what I thought it was. I never in my mind thought I would have an original. So he came in, he did that, and he assured us that we needed to do a little bit more research on it. And I told him, "Yeah, we will. We have a whole estate to move in, and we'll get to it."
Yeah, we kind of just blew it off. We really didn't take him serious.
That's how it started.
So at this point, you like you said, you didn't really take it that serious. It was not on your radar as something that you had just recovered that had been stolen, right? There was nothing that was giving you a red flag about it?
We had no idea what we had. And I think that's something that I would love to stress in this is when we even purchased the contents of the estate, we had no idea.
Yeah, it was a little old lady and a little old man, in their 80s, who would, we certainly wouldn't think they were international art thieves, So, and in a small little town of 200 in the middle of nowhere,
right, hanging their
I know
their prized treasure behind their bedroom door.
I gotta say, one of my favorite things about this story, aside from the fact that we can laugh about it because it's been returned, is the pictures of Jerry and Rita Auker. This picture of them that's just been circulating the day before they before they did the heist. It's Thanksgiving and they're toasting, and they just they just look so normal.
They look really happy.
They look happy.
They're sitting at grandma's table, and with the kids and the nieces and nephews, and yeah.
I mean, his shirt is buttoned all the way up.
Yeah, completely to the top. Yep.
Yep.
They haven't even drunk a sip yet of their wine.
It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
You can't write this.
Yeah.
No.
So what happened next?
A few minutes later, another customer comes in, and she looks at it, and she said, "I think this is real." And of course, we chuckled. And she said, "You guys really need to research this, And of course, we're still thinking, yeah, right. Because we hear this all the time with stuff, We've done this for 30 years. So, people are always telling us we've found treasures. Well, then over the course of the next few hours, the first gentleman came back several times and wanting to know if we found out yet because he wanted to buy it. And, and I'd say, no, I haven't had a chance. And he would say, well, look it up because I'm serious. I want to buy it. I have people who will forward me the money. I believe it's real. And he said, it could be worth a couple $100,000 to a couple million. He said, but you really need to find out. And so, now we're kind of, but then when the third person came in and basically did the same thing, and she was very excited, and she photographed the painting and said it, that she was going to go home and see what she could find out. About that time, we thought, maybe there might be something to this. And that's when Buck took the painting and locked it in our bathroom.
Oh, that's where I got the bathroom. I remember reading something about I conflated those two details.
You got to understand, Silver City it's pretty small, and everybody knows everybody here. So the rumor mill immediately went rampant through town.
Yeah.
So we had all these people coming in looking for this possible real de Kooning painting. The only door in our store that locks is the bathroom.
Right.
So I wrapped it in a packing blanket and locked it in the bathroom. And then told people I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Where in the bathroom? Like under the sink, or was that
up against the wall near the toilet?
Yeah, right by the toilet.
Wow. So because all of a sudden, if the entire town knows that you may have this incredibly valuable piece of art, you're kind of a mark at that point.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and mind you, people understood that it could be potentially a real de Kooning at that point, and that it had some value to it. We didn't understand to what extent that was.
Right. And of course, nobody still knew that it was stolen.
Right. So.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So we kept Rick and I kept urging David to do the research, but whenever we get an estate in at the store, we will typically park our vehicle out front that is carrying the estate items, and that causes a stir in town, and everybody wants to come in to see what we have. So we have all these people coming in, and David's exceptionally busy, and I'm exceptionally busy, as is Rick. So at one point, I got to the computer, and I typed in de Kooning and then hit images under Google search. And the intent behind that was to have the images pop up when the computer went to sleep, and then David woke it back up again. It would be right in front of his face to remind him,
to
look
get
it
me
up.
to do it.
Look it up.
Good move.
Yeah.
Which is what happened.
That's what happened.
Okay, so did you have this painting up there as the image?
No, that wasn't until much later.
What ended up happening was we had a little bit of a lull around lunchtime, and so it was only the three of us in the store and then our friend Kathy. And so I sat down and I thought, okay, well, I'll do a little research. And the other lady that was pushing us, she brought me back a list of different paintings and what they sold for. And she said, you need to look up the de Kooning Society. Well, there is no de Kooning Society. What she meant was we needed to look up the de Kooning Foundation. Well, I started Googling the de Kooning Society, and since it wasn't there, I went 4 pages into Google looking, and that's when I came across, I saw a little header saying, you know, stolen paint, mystery of stolen painting, you know, 30 years ago or something like that. And it said Arizona, which is where I'm from. So I just randomly kind of clicked on it. And as soon as I clicked on it, the image came up, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, this can't be. And so I called into the front room, and I called Rick and Kathy, and I said, come in here. And Buck and Kathy ended up coming in, and I said, is this the painting we have? And they both said, well, it sure looks like it. So Buck went into the bathroom and got it, and we brought it out, and we put it on the desk next to the computer and blew it up, and sure enough, it was the painting.
We knew it wasn't a copy. We knew it was it.
It was it.
What was it about it that you knew it wasn't a copy, or it wasn't a good replica? Someone had painted a replica.
Well, the first giveaway to me was in the Anne Ryman story in the Arizona Republic. They talked about the painting being rolled up. Well, when the painting was in the house, I noticed these creases in it, and I just assumed, because the Alters were world travelers, that they had bought this painting maybe in Europe, rolled it up in a tube, and sent it home. So my first thought was had been rolled up. So that was the first clue. But then we blew up the picture off of the internet and started comparing splatters and drips, and there just was no way that those could be faked. And so by the time we called the museum, we were 100% sure that we had the real painting.
Okay, so at that point, you guys were probably like, cha-ching, popping bottles of Cristal, and
no, honestly, no.
No, it was more wah-wah.
Right.
Oh, so you guys did the right thing. So you called the museum? What?
We called the museum.
The first phone call was to the museum.
Yeah, and we took a minute or two to kind of get ourselves together, because we didn't want to sound like idiots.
Right. Well, the University of Arizona Art Museum, actually, is where the painting was stolen from. So we... David had said to me, what do I do? And I said, we call the museum. And he says, how do I get that number? I said, Google it. You have a computer, Google it. So that's how it started.
Yeah. And so we made the phone call and got a receptionist, and she asked how she could help us. And I said, I think I have a piece of art that was stolen from you guys. And she said, what piece of art? And I said, the de Kooning. And there was this silence, and then she said, hold, please, and put on hold. And then the next thing you know, I was on the phone with the curator, Olivia Miller. And, you know, and I kept saying to her, I don't want to sound like a crazy person, but, you know, I have this $100 million painting here in my store. And so Olivia started asking us to, you know, send her pictures.
She didn't assume it was a prank?
I think according to her, she said she took me seriously immediately.
Oh, okay.
But they have gotten many, many phone calls over the years about this painting that weren't real. But she said there was something in my voice that she just knew that this could very well be the real thing.
Yeah, we actually found out later that when the receptionist, I believe, that went in to talk to Olivia before the call was transferred through, her words were, he doesn't sound crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
The other words that, and I love the visual of this happening, was another line that was stated during this transition of David getting on the phone with Olivia was, the girl said to Olivia, is this going to be a day that we remember for the rest of our lives? And Olivia said, yeah, I think so.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
So how did the return go down?
Oh, God.
This is some of the stuff that's not been out in the media. We had to keep a lot of this quiet for over a year because of the FBI, but they have now concluded and finished the case, so we're allowed to talk about a lot more stuff.
Oh, please! Does it involve? Here's where my mind's going, and I hope I'm right. Does it involve like people who look like you guys going in different directions and decoys and like cars that are tinted windows?
Almost as good.
Yeah, we really don't know. All I can say, but I'll let David tell that part of the story. But all I could say was it is not as easy as you think to give back a painting worth over $100 million.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, I think what it was nobody understood or nobody took seriously that we wanted nothing for it, that we felt that this was stolen and it needed to go back to its owner.
Yeah, I still don't believe you.
Well, that's it. And I think everybody thought that we were going to pull the trigger at some point, or we were going to, do something, which we weren't. But that kind of caused some delays and some things. But what ended up happening was we spoke to the museum, we spoke to Olivia, and then we exchanged pictures for about 15, 20 minutes and texts. And then it went dead. It went silent. My last text to Olivia, she had asked for a picture of the back of the painting, and we texted back, well, there's masonite screwed to it. And so her final response was, oh, okay, thank you. And then hours went by with nothing. And I'm thinking, if I was a museum that's just 3 hours away, and these people called with this $100+ million painting, I'd be in the car immediately. We weren't getting phone calls. The FBI wasn't calling us. The museum wasn't calling us. They weren't returning our calls.
How long did that go on for?
Well, come 5 o'clock, our store closes, and we hadn't heard anything. So I'm like, what in the hell do we do now? So we, I didn't want to leave the painting in the store because, like you said, word gets around and, somebody's going to kick the door in. So we wrapped it in a blanket and I took it home and I put it behind my sofa. I started making some phone calls. I called the reporter, Ann Ryman, got her voicemail, left her a message that I read her article and I think I have the painting, and the museum's not calling me back and the FBI isn't calling me. I don't know what to do. I didn't get a phone call back from her. I basically, for the next few hours, just sat in my living room with the painting behind me, sweating, and my mind started then playing games with me. The paranoia started happening.
Oh no!
Oh boy! Yeah, tell us where that took you.
Nobody's calling me back, and so one of the funny ones was I thought, the only person I actually spoke to was this Olivia Miller person. And, what if she's on the phone with her boyfriend saying, I know where the Kooning is and nobody else knows. And let's go over to Silver City and, Jeff Galoolying me, and shooting me or something.
Nice.
So that one went through my head and, all of this stuff. So anyway, about 9 o'clock at night, I thought I reread the article and there was a little sentence in there about the FBI's art theft team. So I got out the computer and I Googled that, looked them up, got on their website, and I thought I'll give them a call. Well, there was no phone number on their website to call them. The only thing you could do is you could send them an email. So I typed out this email, I've got this painting and, somebody needs to get a hold of me. I hit send and I thought I'll get a phone call within 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Another 4 or 5 hours go by. Now it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sleeping.
Right.
I have a gun on my lap because I think some meth head's going to kick my door in and cut my throat.
Wow.
This guy's going to kick my door in. Somebody's going to kick my door in.
Your door's getting kicked in.
And and all I'm hearing are crickets. So I get a hold. I finally decide I'm just going to call one of the local branches. So I call the Albuquerque FBI. And I get this guy who I obviously interrupted him because he was not happy to talk to me. And he was all, yeah, sure, right, And I'm trying to convince him that I have this painting. So finally he transfers me. And I think he transfers me to Washington. And the guy I get on that end, for the first few minutes, is kind of the same. So finally I told him, I said, look, can you pull up a picture on your computer? And he says yes. So I give him the link to the article and he pulls it up and I said, see that painting there? And he said yes. I said, I'm looking at that right now. It's in my living room. And then he got kind of excited. So he took down all the information, where we got it, the address of the home it came from, where I am, who I am. And then he told us, whatever you do, don't leave it at your home and don't take it back to your store.
So what do you...
Bury it?
Well, yeah, that was it. That was like, okay. So about 7 o'clock in the morning, I call our other partner to come down with the truck.
After no sleep.
After no sleep at all. And every noise that we heard, just sent us through the roof. So we threw it in the back of the truck, and we drove around Silver City looking for some place to put this painting. And everyone I called, no one was home. I called my attorney. He was out for surgery. I called a friend of ours who used to own an art gallery. Couldn't get a hold of her. We called and called and called. Nobody was answering. So finally, I drove it to another friend's house. They weren't home, but they live a few doors down from an acquaintance of ours who's another attorney. So I thought he'll know what to do. So we drove it to his house, and he came out, with his cup of coffee, and he said, "So you think you found a painting, huh?" And I hand him a copy of the article, and then I take the painting out, and it's got the blanket around it. I open it up like a flasher, and I just flash in the painting. And he looks at it, he looks at the article, and he's like, "Okay, bring it in." And so we took it into his office, and he put it in his conference room, and he tried calling the university. He called the president's office of the university. He called the museum. Nobody wanted to talk to him. So again, I'm thinking, this is just really weird.
You can't give this thing away at this point.
I can't. Nobody wants to talk to us about this. We were trying.
Even while we were searching for a safe place to put it, because that was the last thing the FBI said was, don't take it to the local police station. Don't take it to your store. Find a safe place for it. So I immediately started thinking, let's take it to our bank. Let's have them lock it in the vault.
Good call.
Right.
Yeah.
So, which is what we ended up going to our bank a little bit later that afternoon, but that morning, still at the attorney's office, his assistant is pulling up all this information off the internet and finding tons of stuff on this particular painting and the theft. And so finally, the FBI also told us to go back to the store and do business as usual. If people ask about it, just blow it off.
What painting?
Yeah.
What painting?
Just shoo away the guy who came back 4 or 5 times the day before.
Exactly.
That's exactly what was going on.
And he did come back.
Yeah,
I'm not
surprised.
Did you tell him that you sold it? They're like, oh no, we let that go for $20.
That's right. Yeah, a couple $100 we let it go for. Well, he actually came in at one point, and he was talking to Rick, and he said, "Did you find out about that painting yet?" And this is before we knew any of this. This was the first day. And one of the comments he said was, I heard Rick say, "No, we haven't looked it up yet." And so he said, "Well, I'm interested in buying it." And I heard that, and I said, "Well, just make an offer then." And he said, $200,000. And I said, "Sold," because I figured he was pulling my leg.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the next day he did come in a few more times. But the rest of that day, we went to our bank. They didn't want to take it at first. First, they didn't believe us. Then when he did, they really didn't want to take it. He finally agreed that if the university would sign a waiver of responsibility, that he would put it in the vault until they could get over here. So right about that time, my phone rings, and it's an intellectual properties attorney from Albuquerque wanting me to hire him. And he starts telling me that we're not giving the painting back. And I was like,
what?
Yeah.
It's yours now, right?
He's telling me that we don't have to give the painting back because it hasn't been determined that it's the real thing yet. We will hire our own experts. And he said, "I'm going to get you guys lots of money for this." And it just pissed me off. So I told him, "No, we're giving the painting back." He basically called me stupid, and said, "You don't understand. You're being emotional. You don't understand. You have certain rights to this. We just have to find out what those rights are." And he said, "But no matter what, I guarantee you, the state of Arizona will gladly give you $1 million just to keep this out of the court system." And I forget what I called him, but I called him something and hung up the phone.
It sounds like a parasite.
Yeah, I still have his number in my phone because I didn't catch his number. So I didn't lose it. I typed in ambulance chaser.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. So I went back to our acquaintance, the attorney, and turns out he was the one who called this guy. I told him that the bank was willing to take the painting now, and he said, "Oh, no. I finally got a hold of the university, and they don't want us to move it. They want it left right here." And I thought, well, that's kind of odd. You don't have, a fire suppression system. You don't have a vault. I would think they would want it moved, a quarter of a mile to a secure location. But okay, if that's what the university says, which turns out to not be true. That he lied to me about that.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Oh yeah.
Why?
That's when the lies started.
Wow.
So throughout the day, I didn't know what was going on with his conversation with the university, but he was representing himself as our attorney.
Just out there on his own?
On his own.
Oh, man.
He just,
We never hired anybody.
No. So anyway, what finally happens is the ambulance chaser from Albuquerque calls me 3 or 4 more times. I finally get so frustrated that I call Olivia, the curator of the museum, who is not returning any of my phone calls. And I left her a voicemail where I was freaking out. And I told her, look, I am being bombarded by people who want us to keep this painting from you. They want us to hold it for ransom. They don't want us to turn it over to you. I'm telling you right now on a recording that we are giving this painting back. We want $0 for it. We don't want a reward. We don't want a finder's fee. We just want to give it back. Please have the university's lawyers call me or call me back. And I hung up the phone. And within 2 minutes, she called me back. Now, we didn't know what was going on their end. Of course, they had a war room going on there. And we didn't know that they were being told not to talk to us by the FBI. But when Olivia got that message, she went in and she played it for them. And they said, oh, yeah, you need to call him back.
Why would the FBI say don't talk? Like, of course you're going to be going out of your mind.
Yeah, what's the strategy there?
I think what it is people didn't, and some people still don't understand that we just wanted to give it back.
Oh,
well,
right.
And what was happening with the FBI, which we now know because we've now heard both ends, the main FBI agent, basically what she said was, when we made the first phone call was, yeah, these guys want to give it back now. But, after a few hours, when they realize they've got $100 million painting, they may take off. They may, skip out of New Mexico. They may hide it. They may destroy it. You don't know.
Yeah, you may just like flash it to someone at the airport, and you just take a private plane for free.
Right.
Yeah. So their recommendation, of course, was for the museum to have no contact with us until this final thing when I told her that lawyers were bombarding us, and they figured maybe it was a good idea. But that's when they decided they were going to come over. That day, they were getting ready to leave right then. And then it got worse.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. So I called the attorney, and I said, the museum is coming over to pick the painting up. And he said, well, I'm having my brother and sister-in-law over for a barbecue. And, as long as they don't mind that, kind of a thing. So I went home, took a quick shower. I drove to the attorney's house and walked in on about 14 people. And it was interesting. He had me tell everybody the story, so I told him the story, and I said the museum's coming to pick it up. Well, then it got even weirder. I get a text from Olivia saying something about, because she's texting me where they are, on their way over. And so I get this phone call from her saying, that the law enforcement is coming just to, escort us, right? And I said, yeah, I'm fine with that. And she said, oh, okay, because I understand that they're not welcome there. And I thought, what? Well, and then the next thing I get seconds later is Buck calls me because I'm down the street at a friend's house. And he said, you need to get back here. The lawyer is saying that he's not going to allow law enforcement onto his property. And I'm thinking, okay. And as soon as I hang up with him, my phone rings again, and it's our third partner, Rick. And he said, they're planning on keeping the painting and making the university give them money. And so I immediately went back to the attorney's office, walked into one of the guests that was there from our local university, and he looked at me with his big smile and said, guess what? We're not giving the painting back. We're going to get the University of Arizona to give us $50,000 towards a new art wing for our university here. And I looked at him and I said, who in the hell are we? And I said, that's my painting. I'm the legal owner of it now, and I'm running this rodeo. And I said, where is he? Meaning the attorney. And so he said, he's in his office. So Buck and I went into his office, and I said, what is this that I hear that you're not allowing the police here and law enforcement? He said, well, I just don't feel comfortable with them coming, and you need to rethink this. I don't think we should give the painting back. You need to think about it. And I said, no, we're giving it back. And he just kept going on. So finally I stood up and I said, where is it? And he didn't answer me. So I walked to the conference room where it had been before, and the door was locked.
It's time to kick down a door.
I looked at him and I said, you've got about 30 seconds to unlock this door, and I'm kicking it in.
Nice.
So he's like, no, sit down. We've got to talk about this. So we sit back down, and he starts giving me all of these reasons not to give the painting back. And things like, he would say, how are you going to feel if the museum takes this painting and then they sell it for $100 million? How are you going to feel then? And I said, the same way I feel now. It wasn't ours. It's stolen. What does that matter? So he goes on for about another 15 minutes. So finally I said, okay, that's it. You need to answer me. Is the law enforcement welcome here or not? And he said, no. And I said, okay, give me my painting. And he said, no. And so I walked towards the door. I said, okay, I'm kicking the door in. And we got right to the point of me actually getting my foot up to kick the door in before he finally agreed to open the door. And so I said, I'm taking the painting, and we'll take it across the street to a friend's real estate office, and we'll just cut you out of this whole thing. And so he said, no, I'll go ahead and let the law enforcement come. So after a few more words being exchanged, I finally said to him, okay, you sit your ass here in your chair. When the museum gets here, I'll bring them in to talk to you, and I'll introduce you. And right about almost exactly when that sentence ended, they showed up, the museum. Little did I know that we were being listened to by the FBI.
No.
Wow.
Yes.
How did that happen? Yeah. They bugged? What?
We didn't know it, but the FBI had been in town all day, and his place was surrounded. There were 5 cars, 5 SUVs around his office, and they had been there for hours. They were either listening in through our phones, or they had, I like to picture one of those big bubble, yeah. things. But when we've heard the whole story now, they ended up telling us that it was this argument that I was having with the lawyer. And when I was screaming at him and telling him that, the painting is going back, that's when they called the museum people, who had been in Silver City for about an hour driving around, and said,
just
okay,
cruising around.
The guys are on your side. You guys can go pick up the painting now.
Wow.
So that's why they right at the end.
Wow. I've never been more jealous of a story in my life.
And there's a little bit more to it than that, but that's the gist of it.
Oh, that is an amazing story. I have several questions.
So how did it go down with the museum comes in, and what was their reaction when they first saw the painting for the first time in so long?
Because the party was still going on. So when the museum arrived and we were told that the museum was there, David and I went to the front door and walked out, and I immediately walked up to Nathan Sexton, who had come with Olivia, and I opened my arms and I gave him a big hug because I wanted them to know that they were very welcome. And he just kind of looked at me very strangely. I said, do you want to see her? And he said, oh, yeah. And I turned to Olivia and I gave Olivia a big hug, and we walked them in. And they came and walked through the party. It was very awkward because all these people's eyes were on them. And we led Olivia first to the door of the conference room, and she walked in, and the painting was leaning up on the floor, And Olivia walked to the front of it. Nathan was immediately behind her, and I walked around the conference table with my video camera recording her reaction. And Olivia fell to the floor on her knees, and she stared at the painting for a second. And the only way I can describe it was there was this moment that she looked up and looked right into my camera, and she was weeping, but it wasn't like just single tears. It was like water was running out of her eyes. And she looked at me and she said, "Holy effing shitballs."
That's incredible.
On my camera, I say to her, "Is that what you're going to say," or something of that matter? And she says, "Not my official statement." And we all laughed, and that broke some of the seriousness of what was happening. At this point, all the museum staff had come in, law enforcement was at the door, and all the members of the party were watching and recording. And quite honestly, we were all at that point I know I was crying because it was such an emotional moment.
It was.
It was very, very powerful. The room was electric. So we sat in there with Olivia and Nathan, just staring at the painting and pointing at little things. And, they weren't able at that time to say, yes, this is it, officially.
Yeah.
So that's how it, and it continued for hours more.
Well, and one of the things that we didn't know is for the 32 years that the painting was missing, because I'm sure your listeners probably know, the painting was actually cut from the frame during open hours of the museum.
Yes.
Well, for the last 32 years, the museum has kept the frame and the remnants of the painting that it was cut from. Well, they brought that to Silver City with them.
Oh, very cool.
So we didn't know that. So they brought it in. It was all crated like it was a piece of art. And they brought it in and they opened it up and they put it on a conference table. And then they asked everyone to leave the room, all of the guests at the party. And so everyone started walking out, including Buck and myself. And they said, no, you two stay. And so we got to stay. They shut the door, and then they took the painting itself and lined it up with the remnants that were in the frame and matched everything up. So we got to be there to watch them matching up, all the cut marks and the paint splatters, and it was really cool. So that's when she said, "I'm telling you, this is it. I'm 100% sure, but I can't officially state that."
Right. But you saw it kind of fit together like a puzzle piece?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
we saw it fit together. Olivia had asked me during this little exchange, because they had put the painting and the frame close together, and she said, "What's going through your mind, Buck?" And I said, I'm a little overwhelmed because this is the first time in 32 years that this painting has been so close to its frame. And I had more emotions involved in that aspect, that they would bring that frame, because to me that frame was more valuable than the painting itself, because of what it stood for hanging in the museum, with this huge horrible act that happened to it, cut with a razor blade or a knife, and the frame just hanging there empty with a little story saying, "If you have any information, please contact the FBI," or what have you. So that to me was a more powerful moment, that they brought that frame off the wall, packed it in a crate, brought it to New Mexico, and laid it out in front of us just for us to look at. It was a powerful moment.
It was pretty cool.
I got chills.
Yeah, seriously, it's incredible.
It was cool.
It's fantastic.
Okay, my main question after hearing this story is, why the conviction on giving the painting back?
Oh gosh. Well, I know for me, what I told the attorney that night after David had his battle with them, he said, "Buck, you don't understand, the size of this." He's saying what I had likened it to was several months before this estate happened, I was walking out of Walmart, and I guess I dropped my wallet, and it had probably $60 in cash in it. And I got a Facebook message from a complete stranger and said, "Hey, I have your wallet." And, they returned my wallet with all its money, never asked for anything. But that's the kind of energy that surrounds our lives.
Right. It's like the way we were all raised. What is the difference if it's $100 item or $100 million item? The only difference is the amount of the money. And, nothing else changes, just the amount of the money. And we're not money motivated. We would love to have money, but it's not the most important thing to us. And what's right is right. And on top of that, I'll tell you this. If you ever get a chance to right such a wrong in the world as this, it's worth millions. It really is. So it was the right thing to do. And we've had so much joy has come from this.
It's like an emotional currency.
Yeah, we still, you'll catch us every once in a while. We'll talk about it. We'll get choked up, as will the museum people, because we've had several events with them where all of us have gotten up on stage and kind of have told both of our stories at the same time, both sides, and inevitably somebody ends up choked up, still, because it's such an emotional thing, and it's such a powerful thing. And, we've gotten phone calls from all over the world. Yeah. People just calling, just saying thank you.
That's incredible.
Just saying, that kind of thing. So, but it just was the right thing to do. Cut and dry. It just was the right thing to do.
It reminds me of the time that I lost my wallet outside of Walmart, and it was returned, and no one touched the $100 million that I kept in my wallet. It was still there.
Exactly.
That was me, actually. Yeah,
Oh.
I just sent that back without ever telling you.
That was nice of you.
Can you give me some of that?
We've had multiple $100 million paintings that have been stolen from us returned to us. So,
Right. This is just another day for you guys.
So is it fair to say that if you never lost your wallet that day in Walmart and never had it returned like that, would potentially a different outcome have crossed your mind here, or it was just...
We probably would have gotten in touch with the black market and sold the painting, and we'd be in the south of France by now.
Right. No, it's
sipping wine,
Your brandy,
right, right,
with a big smile,
lighting your
It's
cigars.
the butterfly effect.
The
butterfly effect. Yeah.
I think we're like that in every aspect. We're like here in our community, we're all about community first. We try to help where we can, how we can. It has nothing to do with the reward you're going to get back out of it. It has everything to do with, I have this little saying that I tell my friends all the time, and that's, make a stranger smile. And that's just a powerful thing in and of itself. So this was cool that it was such a global event, because it really was. I'm honored to be a part of it, because it's huge. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it really is incredible that the three of you so quickly decided to give it back with no money, and you have no regrets that you did that. Was it even a conversation between the three of you, or was it just an unsaid decision that, we're obviously going to give it back? Because the three of you sound very genuine. You sound like super cool guys. Would love to hang out with you. And it sounds, it feels to me like you guys saw it and you're like, okay, there's no other option here.
Yeah, it was definitely unsaid. It was an unspoken thing. We all three know each other so well. We know how each other thinks. We all own the business. We all, we all have our areas in the business, but we all know each other so well. It really didn't even need to be discussed. After the phone call was made, we all took a sigh and we're like, okay, here it goes. And, but no, we didn't have to discuss it at all. We just knew.
This is great. This is like an Empty Frames Christmas Carol or something that. It's like
it really is.
It's like it's inspiring. I hope people who have stolen artwork are listening. Other pieces of stolen artwork.
And that was another thing. We've had friends come in and with their children and say, "I want you to tell our kids this story because I want them to hear this from you. I want you to be an example." I mean, that kind of thing, that is just so touching to me. Gosh, what can you say when you get to be an example to somebody? I think that's pretty cool. And, to my nieces and nephews and my other family members and we did get some pretty cool stuff from this. We got recognized by the state of New Mexico and the state of Arizona. So we're written into both states' histories. The microbrewery in Tucson offered us all the beer we want for free.
That's incredible.
That was really good.
No, that's fun. That's fabulous. We've had, for our little town here in Silver City, what's been fun is this story has brought a lot of business to downtown, which is a lot of fun from people that are from all over the world coming to see where the painting was. That's kind of interesting. Like one of the business owners here came by and she gave us gift certificates to her restaurant just to say thank you. It's those little small little things
that means well, not quite $1 million, but but close.
The world.
That means everything to us. It really does.
Here's a weird question, right? So now, if you decided to keep it or whatever, right?
Playing a hypothetical?
Yeah, a little hypothetical game here. Like, how would you have gone out and tried to liquidize this? I feel like we talk about this as a problem. It's like, the FBI assumed you were just going to hop a plane to Mexico with the currency of this painting. Like, that doesn't make any sense. You have to liquidize it first. Do you have any thoughts on how you would do that?
I don't, because that has never been a thought in my mind. I've thought about, what would it have been like to have that kind of money? Like when the lottery was ridiculous and I was out there buying $5 worth of tickets just on the chance to win and saying, hey, God, I just gave away this painting. Come on.
You deserved it.
Throw me a bone here.
You deserve that, I'll tell you.
I think my thing would have been, I'm sure we probably could have tucked it away and probably, I don't know that many shady people, but I'm sure I probably could have, come up with something. But, then you spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, and every time a car slows down, you're wondering if it's the cops, or even worse, if it's the IRS, so.
But that blows my mind, because you have this incredibly unassuming and, for what we understand to be, not career criminals, Jerry and Rita Alter.
Right.
They took this thing, and on some level, you have to give them credit just for the brazenness of it. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and then they just hung it and looked at it, like they weren't trying to liquidate it.
They kept it private.
I will say, like, we don't know 100%, but if it looks like a duck and smells like a duck, and quacks like a duck, that whole saying. But and that's just it. What's great about Grant County and Silver City, New Mexico, and all your listeners should come visit. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So there's the plug for our little community. And come to my store, Manzanita Ridge. But what I loved about it was we're such a small and tight-knit community. I immediately got a lot of people who were caregivers for the altars while she was sick before she passed, who came to tell me some, pretty fun stories about, how they were in the house. And because I always wondered, if they did steal it and they had it in their house knowingly, how did they live with that? So I wonder, I have these great little stories in my head for like writing a movie script of like, what was it like, for them to take a painting and hang it in their house for all these years, knowing that it was worth $100 million plus. I don't, to me, that's just mind boggling.
Well, and now, again, we can talk about stuff that we haven't been allowed to talk about. And a lot of it is starting to make it to the media now. But one of them is the last few months of Rita's life. I think her mind was starting to go, and she started telling stories to the caregivers about the painting. Most of them had never seen it before, because the door was always open and it was hidden. And at the very end, I think she might have known that, that she was dying. But at the very end, I know one of the caregivers, the first time she saw the painting, which was just a few months before Rita died, she said, "Oh man, that is one ugly painting." And Rita looked at her and said, "If you had any idea of the value of that painting, you wouldn't think it was so ugly."
That's amazing.
And then another caregiver said that she told her the story that she said, "See that painting there? That painting was my husband's, and the school," she didn't say what school, she said the school had it and wouldn't give it back to him. So one day I sent my husband and my son to the school, and they took the painting back. And so I think they, they knew. I mean, I think they were involved for sure.
So how do you now approach estate sales? Do you, if you
we'll take it all, Lance?
Yeah. Are you just like everything? We'll take everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
We'll take everything, but we also because people will come in and they'll joke and say, "Do you have any more of those paintings? Found anything?" And the overall consensus, I think, with the three of us in the store is we don't want another one.
Well, we don't want another stolen.
We don't want another stolen one.
I will take another de Kooning.
We'll take another.
I would love to buy a locker full of 15, de Koonings. That
Right.
We can give you a list of 13 stolen pieces of art and property from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. If you could just keep your eyes peeled for that, and
just let us know if they show up.
Give us a ring.
Detectives. We are junior detectives now. The FBI gave us little badges.
Oh,
no,
nice.
did they?
And FBI mugs and an FBI drinking glass. So
my jealousy is out of control right now.
What about the key to the city?
Yeah.
Well, and we did get a makeshift key to the city from Silver City. They did that.
Yeah.
It's just been quite an adventure for, I think, all of us. And hopefully we'll end up finding that locker full of priceless paintings. And
that'd be great.
Unbelievable. I'm so jealous. Tim and I always talk about how we deserve the keys to cities, and we ask for them, and no one gives us keys to cities.
So many keys.
And we asked law enforcement to deputize us, and they actually made a joke and they said we'll send you some junior deputy stickers. Like, no, we want a badge. I have a Crawlspace mug. I want an FBI mug.
Yeah, we got these little real. I mean, they're actual metal. They're not plastic. These inch tall junior FBI badges, and our mugs and our hats and our drinking glass. It's like a sippy cup.
Yeah.
It's like a sippy cup. So the anniversary of the theft is coming up. Do you folks have anything planned for that?
Well, we're having a big Thanksgiving, and I think some of the museum staff is coming. They were all invited, but most had plans already. We actually may have a celebrity guest who met. Well, I'll just tell you.
Well, we'll come. I mean, you don't have to beat around the bush. We'll come as your celebrity guest if you want.
One of the perks that happened, one day I was in the store and this woman walks in, and she is dressed really kind of Southern California Rodeo Drive-y kind of looking, which is unusual in Silver City. And it turns out that it's the Erin Brockovich.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yes.
What?
And,
the actual lawyer or Julia Roberts?
No, the actual.
Oh, very cool.
The actual real Erin Brockovich.
That's cooler than Julia Roberts.
Way
cooler.
cooler.
That's cooler than I think so too.
I think so.
So turns out her sister lives here in Silver City, and she wanted to come in and meet us and talk to us about the painting. So anyway, her sister and brother-in-law are friends of ours. We didn't know that Erin Brockovich was her sister, though. So anyway, we thought that was pretty cool. So we've invited them for Thanksgiving, and she asked if Erin could come to Thanksgiving. So we may have Erin Brockovich for the anniversary of the thing. But we do have there's a student film crew that's coming up for Thanksgiving. They're going to film us having Thanksgiving and talk to us some about the painting on the anniversary of, and we may have some of the museum people might be here. We just don't know yet for sure. But if they're watching and they hear that Erin Brockovich is coming, they may change their plans and join us.
Can you please, during Thanksgiving, please pose like Jerry and Rita posed in that picture?
Oh, absolutely.
So I've got a great story for you.
We're going to get Buck a wig.
So this is what happened. For the anniversary of the return of the painting, the University of Arizona, actually, the museum, rather than celebrating it at the university, wanted to give some love back to Silver City. So they came all the way here with some members of the foundation to have a big party. So we hosted the party at our house, and one of our guests was our state representative, Rebecca Dow. And as a host gift, she brought me, and I just thought it was the most clever thing in the world, that picture that you were holding up a little bit ago of Jerry and Rita. Mm-hmm. She presented me with this box. I'm also an actor, and I work out of Albuquerque and what have yous. But yeah, so that picture that you're holding there, she brought me that wardrobe.
Yep.
Yes.
She found me the glasses.
Yep.
I'm bald, so she said you have to work on the wig yourself, but you're ready to play the role of Jerry Alter in the making of this film.
Yep.
So any screenwriters out there, contact us.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Have you
I'm
been
so jealous?
Have you been approached about the rights or anything?
No, we haven't.
We've had a couple people talk to us about it. There's a woman in New York that's writing a book, and she flew out and spent a week out here talking to us. But there's been kind of distant rumbles of somebody wanting to do, some kind of a movie or screenplay or something, but nothing really concrete.
I'm telling you, Julia Roberts could play Rita.
That's what we said,
It's Manzanita Ridge Furniture and Antiques, and that is in Silver City, beautiful Silver City, New Mexico.